Listen, you smell something?
Human emotions are materializing in the form of a viscous psychoreactive plasm with explosive supernormal potential.
What a discovery, a psychoreactive substance.
Do you know what this equipment is used for?
Boggle or Super Mario Brothers?
We'll have fun!
Yeah, still doing it. Really quite good work there.
My friend, don't be a jerk.
We've got no choice. Call the Ghostbusters.
Super Jackpot!
Welcome to Extraplasm Podcast. It's the only podcast on the internet that believes ectoplasmic residue is a liquid asset. I'm your host, Jim Maritato, aka Vink Maniac on the internet, and I'm stoked to be back bringing you episode 49 of Extraplasm after a week off. And joining us on the show this week is Tony Taylor of Phantasm Toys, a regular, at this point, guest of the show, a frequent attendee of our proceedings, and a friend of the podcast. Originally, Tony and Brendan Pearce, who of course make Phantasm together, and Brendan provides our logo, as you know, if you listen to the show every week. They were going to be coming on the show together, and for the first time, face-to-face, present with one another, because if you listen to the show in the past when they've been on, you might know that the first time they even met on webcam, even though they've worked together for quite some time, was on the show. But Brendan has flown to the United States. He's here on holiday. He's actually staying at Tony's house, and we plan to record the podcast together with the three of us, and we were very excited to do it. And Brendan fell pretty ill to the point that he didn't really feel well enough to sit at the microphone, and I completely understand that. He had like a crazy 18-hour flight. He apparently tried to get some nicotine stuff to replace his vape stuff, and that went badly, and he got stuff that made him not feel good. And I mean, the bottom line is the dude flew all the way to the United States. So we're hoping to catch up with Brendan soon and to have him on the podcast when he's feeling better. But this week, we're going to be talking with Tony. And so what are we going to be talking about? Well, obviously, toys. We're going to talk a little bit about Phantasm Toys and what they have coming up down the pike. But we're also going to get into a conversation this week about what is going to be coming for the next Ghostbusters movie and what we expect for the next things like, Toy Fair 2023 that's happening at the end of this month. Whether or not we should, expect to see role play toys being re-released that we saw for the last movie, or whether they'll be changed out. There might be some discussion in here about things like RC traps, all sorts of different stuff that we get into this week about the Hasbro toy lines, our favorite parts about the Mattel toy lines, and what we kind of aspire for and hope we're going to see coming out of the next toy releases for the new movie. And there's some discussion there too about branding, about, sort of the toy business and industry. So if you're a person who collects Ghostbusters toys, this is probably going to be a little more of an inside baseball-y or toy fan discussion rather than just kind of a discussion about Tony and his company. So, if you're a fan of Tony and his company, don't worry, that's in there too. But I'm really excited to bring it to you this week because I really love my conversations with Tony. He's always fun to get together with and talk about Ghostbusters. He's very passionate about it. Obviously, he makes a whole bunch of Ghostbusters-inspired figures. And so he's got some really good insights. And so this is a fun conversation I hope you're going to enjoy. But before we can get into that conversation, I just want to let you know about a couple quick housekeeping items. I've let you know already that the Facebook page for Extraplasm is up. If you haven't gone and liked it and you want to be able to follow what's happening on Facebook, you can. It's still not probably the primary place where you're going to find Extraplasm on social media. That seems to have remained Instagram so far. So, of course, you can follow us there as usual. On YouTube, Extraplasm YouTube is now up and running. If you go and look for Extraplasm Podcast on YouTube, you'll find it. And what I'm doing up there is posting sort of short clips from the show. So if you're a person who wants to refer back to something, or if you like to listen to things in short format, like on your lunch at work, that's going to be a thing I'm trying to produce on a regular basis. You may have seen the first set of those up from the last episode already. So if you want to take a look at that, follow, subscribe, ring the bell, whatever it is that they tell folks to do on YouTube, feel free to do that as well. And one thing I want to sort of just let people know, I'm pretty sure I've got the feeling that we're probably going to start to dial down and sunset the X/Twitter account for Extraplasm a bit. I think it'll probably still be there, and I'll probably still be posting little updates there about episodes that are coming out. But I'm going to be real with you. I had a really fun conversation with somebody who's been on the show before, namely Paul Martin, who you may know as GB World Hub. We were talking about something, and I suddenly found that I couldn't talk to him anymore. And the reason why was that I had apparently exceeded the number of DMs that are permitted now if you're not a subscriber on X. And to be 100% real with you all, I'm not really inclined to give money to x.com/Twitter, whatever it is, /Elon's pocket, because that money is better spent in other places for the podcast. So if you are DMing me over on X and you're not getting a response, it might be because I'm locked out of DMing you back because I've DM'd too much that day. And I'm not really interested in fixing it, to be 100% real with you. So if you want to reach me, I think the better place to do so is going to be on Instagram. You can, of course, reach the podcast at extraplasmpodcast@gmail.com. And we're over on Facebook at this point as well. So there's a few other places to reach other than Twitter, but kind of expect that the interaction there is probably going to decrease a bit because it's just not a place that I'm finding a joy in engaging at this point. When I have to worry about whether or not in the middle of a conversation, I'm going to be told, hey, you need to insert more coins into this particular box in order to keep talking to your friends. And that's just not a model that I want to support. So if that poses a problem for anybody, sorry. I don't think it's going to, but I'm sure you can get in touch with the podcast otherwise if you really want to. Okay, so that kind of clears up the things we need to talk about in terms of little housekeeping items. So let's go ahead and talk about some Ghostbusters headlines.
Still making headlines all across the country, the Ghostbusters are at it again.
Today, the entire eastern seaboard is alive with talk of incidents of paranormal activity.
Phone-in topic today, ghosts and ghost busting.
Extraplasm, read all about it. Ghostbusters headlines coming at ya.
In Ghostbusters headlines this week, we've got a bit of stuff to catch up on because we were away. There was no show last week, so that means that anything that went on last week is something that, well, the show didn't cover. So we're going to talk about some of those things today. Let's start off with some merchandise items to talk about. If you've seen the Ghostbusters Rewind collection or from Funko, where they've got the Rewind figures that are inside VHS boxes that look like they were on the shelf at Blockbuster, you might have remembered that there was a Stay Puft figure that's coming out. It is now available on Funko's website exclusively. So you can't buy this in stores. You do need to go to their website in order to get it. It's a vinyl figurine that's about 3 3/4 inches tall that comes inside of a collectible case that looks like a VHS, which is kind of fun. There's a 1 in 6 chance that you will get a chase item if you pick up one of these. So if you're interested in Funko items and you're interested in things that have chases, then you may want to take a look at this because I guess if you buy 6 of them, you'll get a chase. I can't really say that's true. I don't know if the distribution really works out that way, but they are advocating or advertising that it's a 1 in 6 chance for a chase. So these are, again, little figurines that are kind of like Funko Pop things, but they're not Funko Pop things. They're just other Funko things. They're vinyl. This is probably not something I'm going to run out and pick up, I'll be honest, because I'm being a little bit more selective about which figurines I'm buying. There's just only so much space in the house. But if you are like a Sofubi collector, if you're somebody's into vinyl toys and you like that kind of stuff, then this may be a thing that you want to go and check out before they sell out, because I believe they are in fact limited. Okay. Outside of figures you could buy this week, let's talk about some attire stuff. Do you need some new clothing? Because if you do, there's some options out there for you this week. There's a new Ghostbusters sweatshirt that you can pick up. It's a hoodie that's pullover. The place to get it is from Five Below, the discount store that is well known for selling like items that don't cost more than $5, except for this sweatshirt, which costs $10, which is still a crazy low price for a hoodie. I don't know what its quality is for $10, but it's out there. It's not available online from them right now. If you look around for it on Google, you can probably find a link to try and buy it online, but it will come as sold out. But it has turned up in stores, where you can actually find it. Ghostbusters News covered this and pointed out that it had showed up, I believe, in a Phoenix location in Arizona. So if you want to try and track this down, you can try and do that by going into a store. It's a black pullover hoodie that has the traditional Ghostbusters masthead logo on the front of it. And on the back, it has like a mock advertisement for quote unquote supernatural pest elimination services. It features Egon, Ray, and Peter. It does not include Winston, which is unfortunate. But you can still pick one up and probably enjoy wearing it, despite the fact that it doesn't have anywhere near enough Ernie Hudson on it. But if you need something that does have Ernie Hudson on it, Old Navy has you covered. But you can get a t-shirt at Old Navy as opposed to a hoodie. And in like crazily, an adult size is up to 4X. So for those of you out there who may be bigger folks, if you're looking for t-shirts and you're like usually like, I can't find Ghostbusters t-shirts in my size, Old Navy may have your back. For the low cost of $19.99, you can pick up their new t-shirt that features black and white photo images of the 4 OG Ghostbusters on the roof of Spook Central. It also includes like thumbnail images of the Librarian Ghost, Slimer, and Stay Puft, and has red accents for the Ghostbusters logo, as well as the phrase "Ready to Believe You" in script. I'm totally buying one of these. I'm just going to tell you that now. It's like in the cart for Old Navy right now. And if you're listening to the podcast today as it comes out, if you use code HURRY, I don't make any money at all, but you get 30% off. So you can actually, it looks like in most markets, buy this online and have it shipped to store or have it picked up from store to save you some money on shipping. So it's a $19.99 shirt, but if you use the hurry code, then it's like $6 off. So then it's like $13.99. And then if you just pick it up in store, as opposed to having it shipped to you, you can get a nice new Ghostbusters shirt for less than $15. So, and then you can put it on like that day. You don't have to wait for anybody to ship it to you. It's totally crazy. Remember when we went to stores and actually bought things? It's wild, right? So those are two options for you out there. If you need to pick up some new Ghostbusters shirt items, whether it's a sweatshirt or a t-shirt, again, I'm totally getting that Old Navy shirt because I'm pretty sure I have like store credit from Old Navy because I did a whole bunch of shopping there to go back to school. I bought a lot of jeans and stuff, so definitely going to make use of that. In a little segment of like news we don't get to talk about the whole season, Halloween merch news. The Trick or Treat Studio signs that we talked about last episode are now available for sale on the website. If you weren't around for the last episode and don't remember what these are, Trick or Treat Studios has a license to produce a series of Halloween themed items, and they're known for making like, sort of replica prop things and figurines. But in this case, what they have offered so far are 2 metal signs. They look like no parking signs essentially, but one is a Ghostbusters parking only sign, and the other restricts access to Spook Central and explains different restrictions for not going inside, etc. You can get each of these for $19.99 at trickortreatstudios.com. We did talk about them previously. I have told you that you can go check them out there as a preview, but that they were out of stock. They are now in stock, so if you want to pick them up before Halloween, now's probably the time to do that, given that you are merely about 6 weeks before you would want that in front of your house. So these are things that I'm definitely interested in because I have a Halloween sort of setup that goes at my house. Every year, we usually project ghosts in the windows, although I'm not sure that's going to happen this year because we have new lighting that has been installed across the street at a park that's shining directly in our windows. But I definitely know that I need new signs, and so I'm totally stoked about these. I'm going to be checking them out for sure. Another Halloween item you've heard us talk about in recent weeks is the Halloween costumes, or fun.com, or as I love to call them, fun costumes, Stay Puft Candy Bowl Holder. If you've not seen this thing already, it's like about 2 feet tall and is about 21 inches. So it's a little shorter than 2 feet. It's a plastic candy bowl and holder. I believe it's hollow around the back of it. So it's something where it's not going to be a figurine all the way around. It's designed to go against the wall and be hollow. But it has it's essentially a little figurine of Stay Puft that's holding a plastic bowl for you to put candy in, and then your trick-or-treaters can come along and take that candy out. Unless like one terrible trick-or-treater comes along and takes all of it, but that's the kid who you terrify as he runs off your lawn. Wait, I'd have never done that. What are you talking about? Anyway, so this has a clear plastic candy bowl with holes on each side that's set on top of Stay Puft's thumbs, and essentially it's an inert prop that looks really fun. I want this thing because I want to put keys in it. I just want to put it in my house, and then when I need to like come home and put my keys in a bowl, I got a bowl for that, but it's Stay Puft. So I really want one of these, and I've ridiculously been talking about this with Jason Fitzsimmons for like since they previewed it months ago, when we have both been keeping mutual tabs on when this thing would be released because we just thought he was so cute and we needed this little guy. So I imagine that somehow this will end up at my house by the end of the Halloween season, even if I probably shouldn't keep spending money on figurines and candy bowl things because there's only so much space. And the last piece of Ghostbusters Halloween merch news I want to talk about for a moment is actually something that Ghostbusters News reported in the last week of August, like right after we had the last episode. And essentially, Jason reported that the Circle City Ghostbusters had turned up a new Stay Puft plush porch greeter at Walmart. And to be fair, it is new in the sense that it has new facial expressions. He has like the scary, angry smile on this time. And the pumpkin he's holding has a different expression than in previous years it was released. But it's otherwise the same pattern. that was released in 2021 and 2022. It's a 21 inch tall, which seems to be the thing. If you're a candy bowl or if you're a plush, if you're a greeter, then you're 21 inches. I don't know, but I digress. And it's plush. It probably has metal rods or some sort of hard rods in its legs to hold it up, because I know the older one does. But I gotta say this for real. At $19.97, like that's the cost on this. It's a steal. All of the other greeters that are this size are like $30, $40. And I really honestly think that I probably paid like $25 to $30 for the one that I bought in like 2020. At $19.97, it's a crazy good deal for a 2 foot tall plush Stay Puft that displays well. If you want to find this thing, you can try and hunt it down in your local Walmart, but they may only have a couple of them. But it's now online. So if you go to Walmart and type in Stay Puft Greeter in the search bar, he should be the first thing that comes up, and he's available to be shipped to you, like even if he's not in a store near you. So, I mean, I can't stress this enough. And I think at Walmart, usually if you spend like $35 or more, then you get free shipping. So find a friend in your franchise, buy 2 of these things, have them shipped to one house. You'll be so happy for you getting like a 2 foot Stay Puft for less than $20. I really recommend this thing. I have one. It gets displayed every Halloween, somewhere in the house, if not outside, because I don't really want to get him dirty because he's plush. But it's really, for $20, it's a really good deal. I can't stop saying it. I don't make any money on this. You all know this. I don't have like promo code Extraplasm. Go to Walmart. They don't care. But you should still go get a cheap plush because it's a good deal. Let's talk about figures and figurines for a few moments. First, we're going to talk about that in terms of merchandise that has been actually licensed and approved. And PCS Studios has made some very significant revisions to the high-end figurines that they're putting out in the next year. You can see the exclusive photos that they have provided to GhostbustersNews.com by heading over there, because Jason got some exclusive peeks at what they've done to make some modifications to the sculpt since the last time we saw them. If you recall these are the sculpts that I was kind of saying about Ray Stantz. Looks more like Roy Stantz, not Ray Stantz, because the sculpts were a little off for the price point that they were charging for these, especially. They were, shooting to make not necessarily iconic versions of Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd, but recognizable versions of the characters themselves. And if you trying to figure out what I mean by that, think about how the Plasma series figures that came out from Hasbro don't actually have the likenesses of those actors, but do have the likenesses of the characters. So they were trying to do the same kind of thing. And they had kind of shot a little wide of the margin on this, that the figurines didn't necessarily look all that much like the characters, especially Ray. And so I have to give them credit that they took feedback from people after seeing the previews and went back to the, CAD studio in their computers and said, how do we retool these in a way that's going to make them look better? And they totally do. I really love the new look on the Egon figurine because he's essentially got the stunned expression during the nice shooting Tex scene. And I don't think we've ever seen that like as a figurine or sculpted in any form. So it's really kind of fun. And I really got to hand it to PCS for retooling what was otherwise really not a great likeness of Ray Stantz. He really looked like a guy who was on a football team who just happened to put on a Ghostbusters uniform. Just didn't look like a character that you knew. So there's 3 different options that are out there. These are not cheap. They are, $600 and up for what they are. And I believe that the silver edition comes with a Neutrona wand beam that you can attach to the Neutrona wand of the figure, as well as a Slimer that is limited for each of the figures. So each of the figures is going to have a different Slimer figurine that comes out with it, with a different expression on his face. But that's only for the highest end silver edition of the figures, which I believe are fairly limited. It's maybe only 150 a piece. There's more of the other 2 that are going to come out at different price points. But if you really want the best versions of these that are the most complete, you're probably going to want to pre-order those ASAP. The pre-order for Egon is live now already. If you're listening to the podcast fresh, then you may want to know that the Ray pre-order will go live on the 14th, so 2 days after the podcast comes out. There is some introductory pricing over there. Like if you order now, then you get a discount because you're sort of getting the pre-order as they're putting them live. So you may want to do that if this is something in your wheelhouse and in your price range. I know it's definitely not in my price range as much as I would love to have these in my house. But I don't have a wheelhouse because I don't have a boat. That's a fun expression though, right? So let's talk about one other item before we talk about some fan-produced things that I definitely want to remind you of. The other big news this week that we need to talk about is video game news, because while we were away, Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed was not. IllFonic did a few things since the last episode, the first of which was they turned the Halloween switch on, apparently, on the servers, because everyone's firehouse has been restored to the Halloween decor that they had when the game was pretty fresh in October of last year. And it's interesting to think about this, that Spirits Unleashed is basically about a year old. It will celebrate its year birthday next month. So they have turned back on the Halloween decor. If you go into the firehouse in Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, you'll find there's skeletons and different pumpkin decor all over the place, which is cute. They have not turned back on the limited Halloween costumes that they gave out last time, where you could go online and go customize your character to have him wearing a Frankenstein mask or whatever. That's not something available. Maybe we'll see that. Not really sure if it's going to be a thing. Nobody's really talked about it. What people are certainly talking about is that it's not just Halloween decor that's coming for Halloween. It's also Sam Hain. They are expanding the story over at Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. The previous story, if you've played this game or if you haven't, here's a way to know about it, was that there was a ghost that had no name. It was literally called Nameless, and it possessed Winston in the game. And so your story was unfolding. You would go and you would work missions, and then you'd come back and have to do some interactive stuff in the story and progress it such that you help to save Winston from the ghosts and trap him and then keep him inside the firehouse in a containment system. So that's kind of the backstory of the original game, or the plot of the original game. Now they're going to expand on that by adding in more episodic content. And this is awesome from my standpoint. From the beginning, I've said that what this game needs more than just, hey, can we give you a new downloadable content with a new ghost at a new level, is story. Like, that is what makes this an attractive thing to play beyond just any other asymmetric shooter that you could be playing. So I'm really stoked about this, that you can go and check out a really great Twitch stream that happened over the last week. On the IllFonic Twitch account, which is twitch.tv/IllFonic, you will find that there is an hour and 13-minute long special guest stream featuring Ryan C. Levy, who's going to be playing Sam Hain, or already recorded that performance for the game. And I thought it was interesting. If you don't have time to sit down and listen to an hour and 13 minutes or watch people play this game for an hour and 13 minutes while they talk with the performer, you can go and check out get Jason's coverage of this on Ghostbusters News, because he has a good synopsis of this on the front page. And essentially what they talked about was the idea that he went back and looked at the original Sam Hain performances to figure out, should he be replicating that? And then they decided to make the performance way more wet. He talks about having a lot of saliva in his mouth, and the game devs talking on the stream with him talk about the idea that their conceptualization of Sam Hain is that the pumpkin in his head is like, rotten, was produced, his head was carved 2 weeks ago, and now it's like 2 weeks after Halloween, which to me is kind of a funny concept. And I'm really interested to see what the kind of physics of the ghost are going to be, given the way they're describing him, the art design, etc. But again, I'm also stoked that they have gone out and found a well-known actor to sit down and record lines and produce a story around this. Now, whether that means we're going to see new lines and new content from the principal actors, like, I don't know that we're going to get more Dan Aykroyd content or Ernie Hudson content, quite frankly. I think that it's probably more likely that the voice actors who interact with Sam Hain may be the other folks in the game. But we'll see. Who knows? I wouldn't pass them to maybe get Uncle Dan to come down and do a recording session for this. But nobody's really talking about that. They're just kind of talking about Ryan Levy. So I think that this is really cool. I'm excited that there's going to be more content for the game. I do still want them to fix some patches and things. I know last time we talked about this, I was upset about traps. I still am. It's okay. But hopefully the DLC will also fix the trap glitch that's happening. But it's really cool to see that they're putting this out. And the biggest thing, the most important thing about it that I think is very amazing is that it's free. There's nothing you have to pay. It's not a downloadable content that you're going to pay for in order to advance and build upon your story. Rather, it's totally available to you 100% for free, coming sometime next month. And it may or may not coincide with the release of the version coming for Nintendo Switch. I've heard that as a rumor, but I don't really know that I've seen that confirmed anywhere. I'm not sure about that. So if you're a Twitch, or if you're rather a Switch person, then be a Twitch person and go over to Twitch and find out what they said about the Switch. That was annoying, right? But for real, I don't know if that game is going to be released in October for Switch as well. But if I find out, I'll definitely come back and let you all know next week. Okay, so that covers the video game stuff. Let's talk about fan merch stuff for a few moments. The first thing I want to tell you about in fan merch world is that Tony Taylor, of course, is on the show this week, and you're going to hear a little bit more about these things while he's on the show. But I thought it was kind of amusing that I was taking the week off and Tony and Brendan were not, because they proceeded to announce in the week off that they have 3 new items available for pre-order and that you can go grab over at phantasmatoys.com right now. One of them is Struttin' Moogs, which you'll definitely hear us talk about on this episode. And if you haven't seen this thing already, because I've been posting it to Instagram, Struttin' Moogs is essentially the version of the Moogly Ghost that is walking down the street at the beginning of every episode of Real Ghostbusters. It's one of the funniest things I think that they have made. And I really love it. I think it's great. So that's something that's available for pre-order now. In the process of making Struttin' Moogs, they also made Mini Moogs, which is a smaller version of him in a different pose, and that is glow in the dark. So you can not only get like a class 10, 6-inch size Struttin' Moogs, you can also get a Mini Moogs to go alongside him. And they also have their latest set of Phanplasms, which are the mini ghosts that are inspired by the original ectoplasm ghosts that were in the cans of Kenner Slime. You can pick those up or take a look at them over at phantasmatoys.com now. As Tony talks about in this episode, they'll probably be available for the next couple of weeks for pre-order, and then they're going to likely be a one and done, I imagine. But we'll see. And the other big piece of fan merchandise I want you to know about, especially because I've now seen it, and I want to say thank you for it, is Kip Marshall's Ultimate 84 project. You began hearing me talk about Kip Marshall's Ultimate 84 project a few episodes ago in passing. Justin West was on the show and he mentioned it. And then the guys from Ecto 1 and J were on the previous episode, and the Ecto Tech was on. And they all were talking about this Ultimate 84 project involving decals for the Ecto 1. And it's something I had seen, and in all honesty, at first I was like, it seems like they're big stickers. And after looking at what it was, I recognized that this was Kip's attempt to sort of make a historic record, almost like a version of the Ghostbusters logos that were idealized and that essentially recreated all of the individual differences between the passenger side door, the driver's side door, and the rear ambulance door or hearse door. For the back door to open up the bay, in the original Ecto 1. So this is like the 1984 version of the car before it gets any restoration, exactly as those logos appeared on screen in the original film. And Kip was generous enough to send me a set of these. He was just like, you don't have to do anything with them. You don't have to review them. And I'll probably put out some photos and some video of it because they're really neat. But he was just like, here, I want you to take a look at them so you can understand and see what they are, and sent me a copy of these. And they are gorgeous. I can't stress this enough that the inkjet versions of these that are, he's got out there for, I believe, $129. You get 3 decals. So it's not like, I get one for each door. No, you get 3 decals, one for each door of an Ecto 1. And you get a set of care instructions and things that come with them. They're so well made, in terms of the quality of the printing on these, that they're just phenomenal. And each of the logos recreates the individual differences, because remember, the original logos were hand cut. So that means that every logo is like pieces of hand cut vinyl that were sort of layered or put together, and they all have some individual differences. Even looking at mine, I went, oh my God, I never realized that there was white lines around sections of the logo in one version, but not the other, or the thickness of those white lines was different. And to me, this is just a really cool way to kind of have a history project. I'm not going to put these on a car, and I know it, because to me, these are kind of like an art piece that I want to do something with and be like, here is, a reference image to be able to use whenever you're going to look at the Ecto 1, etc. And then alongside that, he also was really generous enough to send one of his test prints of the screen printed version of these. which there are only going to be 40 sets of those that are going to be, for Ecto drivers, folks who have Cadillacs is sort of his goal for them to be sort of the hero logos. And these are like literally, like the other ones are die cut and they're replicating the hand cuts and differences. But Kip is literally hand cutting each of these logos to replicate what existed in 1984. And like, I'm very like grateful to have received one of these because they're so damn nice. Without question, I'm going to take that one and frame it. Like I want to frame it and put it on some sort of backing because it is such a cool recreation. And I've never seen like an Ecto one that pops or logo that pops the same way. A Ghostbusters logo with a red that pops in the same way as this does because it's probably other than looking at it on the car. And even the one I probably saw at Sony wasn't the same because it wasn't, the original logo production process. So these are really, really cool. If you just want to get one of these in inkjet printed because you want to be like, I have one of the cool, like idealized versions of these logos, you can pick up one as a single inkjet printed version for $45. But if you want to get one of the 3-packs for $129, you can pick up a 3-pack of, the digital inkjet version. And for $229, that's where you're going to find the hand printed decals that are like the most realistic recreation of the logos you're probably ever going to get, to be real. I don't know who else is going to take the time to be like, I am so passionate about, replicating a logo down to its flaws that I'm going to dedicate hand screen printing to that. That's probably something that Kip is going to do and not many more people are going to do. So check those out at ultimate84.com. And again, I want to say thank you to Kip for sending over a set of those for me to take a look at because they were really special and I really hope people pick them up. The final thing I want to talk to you about real quick at the end of this little headline segment is that if you're looking for places to watch Ghostbusters for the Halloween season, you're probably not without, any access to that already. But for some reason, if you needed to find it somewhere else other than in your house, or if you missed out on ways of getting it in the past, you might want to know that the 35th anniversary edition Steelbook set that was released in 2019 is actually back up for pre-order on Amazon as well as at Target. You can go and grab it from there. It is a reproduction copy, so it does have a different UPC on it, and I'm not sure if it's going to say reproduction, but it is a second run, essentially, of that Steelbook set that you can pick up if you missed out on it when it came out, years ago. And if nothing else, if you need places to watch Ghostbusters, apparently it's going to be on Peacock, Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2. I'm kind of eager to see whether or not they're going to air the actual film version or they're going to put the TV version out because I'll be honest, I really enjoy watching the television version of Ghostbusters, the clean version, because it's just kind of fun to listen to Venkman say things like knockabout of pure fun. And one other thing that sounds kind of cool is if you're looking for an alternative to the usual lineup from AMC or Peacock, your Halloween entertainment, all month long in October, TV station Real 86 is going to be playing a curated collection of horror films to celebrate a year since those annoying... What is this? Wait a second. I didn't write this. This says it's from 1993? That can't make sense. How could something from 1993 even be something that we were talking about on the internet? All right, I don't know what this is. I don't know how this got added to my stuff, so let's just kind of move on. You know what, folks? I think that's a good point for us to wrap up headlines. So let's go ahead and talk now with Tony Taylor of Phantasm Toys, an awesome person, a great friend of the show, and probably the person who's going to have the most robes from Extraplasm by the time he's done. Joining me on Extraplasm Podcast for yet another ride around the podcast sun, probably earning more robes than anybody else. Good friend of the show, awesome, great person, toy maker extraordinaire, Tony Taylor of Phantasm Toys. How are you doing, Tony?
I'm doing great, Jim. I am 100% ready for that robe right now. I'm a little chilly. It's a little cold down in my basement, and I could use something to throw on. And
I was gonna say, you have to be somewhere cold like your basement because everybody else seems like is in a giant hellhole of heat wave for the last few weeks where it doesn't matter where you live, but your house is melting, or you could be in Texas, you could be in Maine. I don't know. It just seems like everyone everywhere is hot. So
we were also hot here in Ohio too. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, you also had a hot visit from someone who was going to be joining us for this podcast, but is not able to be on the podcast due to being on the disabled list or the illness list, because Brendan Pearce of Badoochi Studios, your partner in crime from Phantasm Toys, is actually, I believe, in the building with you, if that's correct.
Correct. He is in the building. He is extremely, extremely jet lagged, and traveling, it kind of took it out of him, and he was going to try and be on here with me, but unfortunately he's having a hard time putting words together, and his brain is a big bowl of mashed potatoes right now from traveling from the other side of the world. And so unfortunately you're stuck with just me. But yes, my partner in crime is currently upstairs resting and getting better till he can finally enjoy and see America for the first time.
Well, one, nobody's stuck with you as just you, because that's like, it's good that you're here. Two, I bring this up because I did get to say hi to Brendan off air, like before we started recording. So even though everybody else on the podcast listenership won't hear Brendan this week, I did get to confirm that he is in fact in your house. And the fun part of that for me is like, I'm going to say this, like, this is fun. Brendan, when you hear this, like, we're sorry that you're not here. And I'm like, was excited to talk with you and like be on and be, yes, get well. Like, I know you're not feeling well, but the last time that you both were on together was the first time you had seen each other on a webcam. And then today we're supposed to be on together and you're actually in the same house together, which is just like, I'm like, if you keep coming on the podcast, especially if you try to come together, like you may move in permanently. Like that may be a thing. Like maybe you'll start a sitcom that's like kind of like The Odd Couple, where like he's the like Australian one. Yeah, or like that. Yeah, and he'll have weird Australian mannerisms, and like you'll have weird like we were talking before about, you know, you introduced him to the concept of cornhole, and that was entirely new for him. Like that
he
could
introduced
be a thing.
me. I am on the podcast this time as a completely different person, because this time I am on the podcast after having eaten Vegemite. And let me tell you, it is definitely an acquired taste. I can't even describe the flavor because it's a completely new, crazy, something that looks like it leaked out of your car type of spread.
If I look like I'm grinning too hard right now on the webcam feed to you, it's because I might have known that was going to happen to you.
It is definitely an experience.
I said, you should bring Tony some Vegemite. And he was like, oh, I already got some. I was like, okay, good. It's like, he's got to have the experience.
It is, and it is exactly that. It is a life-changing experience.
You are now forever a changed person post Vegemite, but you have all this opportunity. Like while he's here, that once he's feeling better, you know, you could take him for enormous American-sized meals. And I think, I think you've agreed already that you're going to take him to an Outback Steakhouse so he can get the real American version of Australia.
we're going to Outback Steakhouse, and we're going to have ourselves some blooming onions, and I'm going to get to see what an actual Australian thinks of what Outback Steakhouse is.
I'm telling
all
you,
about.
like this is podcast content. Like you have to bring a mobile recorder with you and just review everything.
Really wish,
let him sit down and be like, let me tell you about what's wrong with all of this, you know. So.
We might do that. I might just go ahead and set up the phone and just record the entire experience.
I would, if I was going to go do this with him, I would say this is how we should go do it. That could be like a thing. We just bring in international Ghostbusters fans into the US for like hanging out. But then there's a bonus episode of just, we're going to go take you to like the Tilted Kilt Eatery because you're from Scotland. And see what you think of this nonsense. This hyper real simulation of whatever your culture is, according to a brand manager who sells or buys in bulk frozen food and sends it out via truck. Yeah. That's how chain restaurants work, everybody, right? So anyway,
sure. We
didn't come to talk about chain restaurants, though. We came to talk about Ghostbusters as usual. And we're going to talk about, you know, your latest toy release, because your latest toy release is just one of the most fun things you've put out without question. We're talking a bit about your Moogs, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And I wanted to just kind of talk to you a bit about what you feel about Toy Fair as somebody who makes toys and who gets excited about them, because Toy Fair is coming at the end of the month. So we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. And even though it's not the stuff we were going to talk about with Brendan, but Did he bring you Tim Tams? Because he said he was going to bring those too.
I also brought Tim Tams, which completely make up for the Vegemite experience. Tim Tams are amazing. If anybody ever gets their chance to grab a package of Tim Tam biscuits, I highly recommend it. They are amazing. But if the Vegemite, just be prepared.
I love that I got to talk to him while he was packing up these items to bring them to you, and now I've seen them arrive. I feel like I was part of this in some way. I wasn't at all, but
you're always a part of things, Jim.
I'm vicariously experiencing someone else traveling really far and being jet lagged, so you could eat weird spreads and delicious biscuits, but not together, hopefully. So
actually, yeah, they were kind of in tandem. So the Tim Tams took the Vegemite flavor out of my mouth. So
that's awesome. Well, at least you were rescued. You had a delicious biscuit rescue from your terrible experience, or not terrible. It was just an experience. It was just, you can call it terrible if you want.
It was terrible.
All right.
But it's been great having him here. And there's a lot of things that we've made in the past that he hasn't even seen in person. He's been a big part of the design and the ideas and everything that's gone into the figure, but he's never actually held it in his hands before. So yesterday when he first arrived, was one of the first things he wanted to do was check out the stuff we've made. He hasn't been able to see yet. So
it's
just
so crazy
seeing him actually holding it in his hands it's been awesome.
It's so crazy to me how many of the things he's designed, but because you've been so far apart that he's never actually had the stuff in his hands. And I know he's got a giant pile of stuff at your house. And I was just thinking about this as you said this, that we've talked about this, he's talked about it, you've talked about it, that he finally got to see his HasLab Proton Pack.
Yeah, he did. Because shipping is so expensive when they were available, getting one to Australia was kind of crazy. So yeah, I've been sitting on his completely 100%. I swear to you, unopened, untouched HasLab Proton Packs I've been storing for him, and he finally got to meet his HasLabs.
If this much awesome happened to me within 24 hours of landing from a 14-hour flight with then a change over to another 4-hour flight, I probably also would be nauseous because of just the awesomeness of all those things happening. So maybe Brendan is just excitement sick. I don't know. I'm kidding. I know he's really sick.
I think
I hope he feels better.
It's jet lag and it's a lot of things. It's a little overwhelming, and I don't blame him either. He needs to get better so we can actually get down and actually do some fun things that aren't in my basement.
Yeah. Although you do have a containment unit in your basement, so it's kind of hard to not have fun in your basement. You could really have a lot of fun in your basement, to be fair.
There's a lot of things you can do with the containment unit. Let me tell you.
A lot of 3D printers. You could, you could invent new weapons, print them, and then use them to have weird downstairs basement toy fights. Not that I'm giving you any ideas, but that would be weird though if you had a overnight weekend event. It was night 1 is design, night 2 is fab, night 3 we fight.
That sounds like a good show. That could be a show.
That's mine.
Let's
Anybody
get together
who just
and
heard
pitch it to
that,
Discovery.
Yeah, that's mine. No one else. We're gonna get Adam Savage involved. He's gonna be the judge and the host.
Yes.
He's you're gonna see him soon. Bring him this.
Yes. That is one thing on our agenda. He's going to be in Cincinnati at the Cincinnati Comic Expo, and we've got tickets. Well, we got more than just tickets, but we got our photo op booked with him, and we are definitely going to meet Adam Savage here in a week and a half or so.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute, since it just kind of came up. So, what are you going to be doing at, Cincinnati Comic Expo?
Cincinnati Comic Expo is coming up. I believe it is September 22nd. I think it starts in Cincinnati, Ohio. And we actually have ourselves a booth reserved. And it's going to be our first real convention by ourselves as Phantasm Toys. We're going to be there set up. We're going to have been working hard on having a bunch of fun stuff available there. And we're going to also have a bunch of the classic Badoochi Studios prints for sale that we're going to have. And we're going to be there for the full 3 days and just waiting on our actual booth number to come in, which should be very soon. And yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be our first convention solo as Phantasm Toys.
That's awesome. And so like you're going to be able to actually interface with folks and stuff. And I know that like in the past you've had an opportunity to kind of be at other cons like as a guest of other folks. Like, but in this context,
we did.
like you get to
it was
go
at
and
New
have
York
your own
Comic-Con.
show, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Well, I think that's great that you guys are going to have an opportunity to get out there and, kind of show off what you do in a bigger venue and in your own space to do it for a little while, for a few days. And you have 3 days. So you can each invent an object, produce the object on site, and then fight in a convention environment. That's
what we're excited about, being able to be not just like a thing on the internet and being able to engage with people and have a lot of stuff to show off. And yeah, it's going to be, hopefully it's going to be a real good time.
I mean, can't imagine it's not going to be. Like, there's some pretty good guests going to that con. Like, I said this to you that I was like, I wonder if I could go to that because it would be fun to come out and see you all. And then I was like, oh man, John Delancey's going to be at that. He's cute from Star Trek. I could be cute.
Yeah, there's a lot of big names. There's a lot of big names that are going to be there. Christina Ricci was going to be there, but unfortunately she backed out. We were really looking forward to potentially getting my Casper VHS signed by her. That was a plan, but fortunately she's not going to be there. But yeah, we're going to have fun. It's going to be, we'll have a lot of stuff to show off. I think we're going to be bringing back some past releases to have available on hand while we're at the convention. So there'll be some Terror Tubs, there'll be some Library Ladies, there'll be some what else? We're going to have some slime balls and some past creepers and stuff we're bringing back and have on display, plus a couple other surprises. So yeah, we're really looking forward to it. We've been working hard.
No, I think that's great. I also am very intrigued by the idea that you were thinking that you would meet Christina Ricci and that the thing you would have signed was a Casper item. Tell me more about this. I'm intrigued. I'm like, most people have been like, I have an Addams Family. This is totally derailed, totally unplanned. Like, people are like, did you guys plan to talk about Christina Ricci and Casper? No, of course not. This just is, I have to know this because for me, I'm like, if you're going to meet her and you were going to take something from like that era, I would go, oh, you got to bring the Wednesday Addams item. But, oh, I just got dark in here.
Whoa.
But for
spooky.
You, it did. Like the lights just went off in here and it got spooky. That must be because of what we're talking about. But for you, that's a Casper item. Tell me more about this. Why?
Because Dan Aykroyd's in it as a Ghostbuster. That's why. Is there any other reason?
So for you, that's what I wanted to get at. Are you a person then who in that moment, are you going there and are you collecting and getting an autograph for a general autograph collection that includes Christina Ricci, or is this part of your Ghostbusters autograph collection that somehow is like, you were in a movie that tangentially had a Ghostbuster in it?
That's the exact word I was thinking of.
I need this autograph.
Yes. The second thing. It will be displayed proudly amongst my Ghostbuster items. But honestly, I love that movie. I really do. I think the ghost designs in it are super fun. And
yeah,
I mean, the fact that Dan Aykroyd's in it with a mustache and a proton pack. Yeah. The fact that that's just an added bonus. I really am a huge fan of that movie, but a big reason why we're going, or another thing that we're excited, is Adam Savage too. He really is a big inspiration with the way he does his own workshop and his cave, and all the stuff that he does by himself is a huge inspiration, at least just to me personally, with the way he does things, and helped me kind of start doing what I'm doing. And it's going to be exciting to meet him personally for the first time, hopefully, and might have a gift for him too. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I will say I also enjoy Casper. It was a movie that I can remember really having an affinity for when it came out. I did watch it more recently, and I was like, I don't know if this movie holds up. I was just like, this movie has some strange moments in it that really make me uncomfortable about how the characters interacted with each other in this movie. It's very odd at points. But
all the best movies have those moments eventually.
But the ghost, well, hey, even Venkman has to carry Thorazine apparently. But I think you're right. The ghost designs in that movie are really fun. There's like some really
they're
great,
super fun, and they look cool. They still look all right. I think the special effects still hold up pretty much.
There was that movie that came out. We Have a Ghost. It was on Netflix a while back.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. That to me reminded me of like an updated kind of Casper. Like he's a friendly ghost who lives in the house with them, and they're trying to figure out how to get him to move on and do it and scare other people away kind of thing. And I was like, this has very deep, like kind of Casper reboot vibes to it that I thought was okay. I was like, I'm not angry at it for that. It kind of takes that story and updates it in a cute way. So if you've never seen that, by the way, folks, you've never seen We Have a Ghost, totally check that out. If you've never seen Casper, there's something really wrong with you because you listen to this podcast, and that means you're required to have seen every utterance of an official, like, screen authorized proton pack ever. And if you don't know that Dan Aykroyd was in Casper, that he was playing Ray Stantz, then you're fired. You need to go
Greatest
pause and go watch
cameo
Casper now.
in film history.
I'm not sure I agree with that sentiment, but it is fun.
It's one of my personal favorites. Who are you going to call? Somebody else.
Somebody else. I do think it's cool though that you may also meet Adam Savage, and I hope you get to have like a moment of kind of exchanging a gift with him, because I think he's inspired a lot of people. And I think that what's interesting about him is how much he geeks out about Ghostbusters stuff.
Yeah.
You can watch his videos all the time, and he talks about different stuff every week. He's always fascinating and like has lots to say on different stuff. But when you see him talk about Ghostbusters, he becomes like one of us. He like lights up like a Christmas tree and gets very like, oh my God, that's so cool. And one of my favorite videos of his is the one they did about the field of traps, when they did the like, hey, here's how we're setting up this field of 198 traps in a matrix. And that's like the most detailed video we've ever seen of the trap field. So you should see what else you can find out from him about
his behind the
afterlife.
scenes, his afterlife behind the scenes stuff, where he got to visit the set and show off all that stuff, and Egon's truck, the Shandor mine truck with the Ivan built, and the field of traps, like you said, and Egon's farmhouse. All his behind the scenes videos are amazing. So,
but it's also funny because like he's done a HasLab customization video. Like, how many people in the fandom have been like, here's how I customize my HasLab pack. I got the yellow nylon. I got this. And they make their little video of it. And then like over on Tested, Adam Savage was like, what should I do this week? I know. I'll update my HasLab pack.
Like, just like Casper with the Christina Ricci thing, and it just being, an added bonus that it's got the Ghostbuster cameo with Adam Savage. I was already a fan, and it's just a huge added bonus that he's also a big, huge Ghostbuster fan like us. So I'm excited to meet him.
That's cool. He's on my list of people who I would love to like just sit down and talk with 15 minutes of my life and just be like, you're a very interesting human being. And even though I'm not much of a physical maker these days, like, I'm certainly inspired and motivated by sort of the energy he brings towards creative process. Like, I don't have a workshop full of mold making, but I have a podcast that's different, but I have a lot of admiration for the stuff he's worked on and done. And one time I actually got to go to a Discovery Shark Week. I just remembered that just out of nowhere. When I first moved here, like there was a Shark Week thing that happened in Ventura where they like brought out a shark and like tried to blow it up or something on the beach. And I was like in the crowd of that. I just totally forgot about that until we just talked about it.
Oh, were they trying to debunk some Jaws myths or whatever? Like testing what would happen if you actually put a...
myths.
Oh, even more fun, I guess.
Yeah. There was like a ginormous like fake shark on the beach, and Carrie and Grant Imahara was that the other person who was like part of the build team or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
They were all there, but yeah. Random things I just remembered that happened in my life, everyone. That's why we come to Extraplasm Podcast, for the excess pieces of memories from my brain that I forget about until someone references something, and then
I'm having a hard time.
Database nonsense.
I'm having a hard time remembering things. I think that Vegemite is like permanently adhered in my brain somewhere and is like blocking all my.
No, it's because he brought you drop bear rabies from Australia, and that's because he was fighting drop bears in Australia. You do know about the drop bears, don't you?
Yes, I know what you're talking about. I don't think it's real though. Isn't it like it's a made up myth? The bears aren't really dropping out of the...
Unless you ask him, see what he tells you. And you have a far better expert there to tell you whether or not drop bears are real. But my understanding of drop bears is that they're a vicious form of koala that drops from the trees. And apparently, even though koalas just eat eucalyptus all day and be lazy, there's a version of them that just drops from the trees and murders people and then climbs back up in the trees. So you can decide whether that's real or fake. But hey, all I'm saying is that like maybe that's your next figure. Maybe just
drop bears. We have a lot of ideas. There's a lot of stuff that because we knew that he was going to be coming for a short period of time, and so he wouldn't be able to be doing any sculpting or really be doing anything like that. So before he came over, we hashed out a lot of things and worked really, really hard on a lot of stuff. So we got a lot of stuff just about ready to go. We're excited about.
Nice. So he just gets to come and hang out and experience America and toilets that go in a different direction than his own.
Yeah. He's still blown away by that.
I mean, if I went there, I imagine I'd be blown away by that. It's crazy to be like, oh, that's actual evidence of how your planet works. It's not every day that you encounter that, like the new fundamental here, confirming facts about how your planet operates. It rotates and it's on an axis and it does stuff depending upon the hemisphere you're in. Well, let's talk about what you have, what you got going on, because I want to talk about you have three things coming out. But one of them is without question my favorite. And you have this thing coming out called Struttin' Moogs that you got pre-orders open on right now. And this is like your rendering of a real Ghostbusters ghost, like the ghost who opens up every episode of Real Ghostbusters.
Ghost
that
from
version
the
of
intro.
Moogly. Yeah.
It's burned into all of our brains, I'm sure. But it was just, we've always kicked around the idea of doing just a straight up Moogly inspired figure, but just trying to capture the animated strut down a street is so hard to do because each frame is like almost an iconic. You could pause it at any moment of the intro and he's got a different pose and expression, and to try and nail that into one static piece was really, really hard. So it was something we went back and forth on a lot as far as the design goes, to try and capture like a whole series of a ghost strutting his stuff down the street around trash cans and everything, and getting it just right was it was a lot harder than you'd think.
Yeah, I would imagine. Because it's like, it's an odd pose to catch. Like, I even think about look, if anybody's ever positioned an action figure, trying to position an action figure in a pose that is like, looks like it's walking and have it look natural is difficult enough on its own. Like, it's one of those things that, you know, and so then to sculpt it and have it look natural, I think with a figure that doesn't actually have, I mean, he has arms, but I mean, like, he doesn't have bone structure. You know, he's a big ghost. So it's like, how do you articulate him? How do you design him? How do you decide what he's supposed to kind of, how he's supposed to work in terms of his musculature when he doesn't have any? It's like a Stay Puft problem, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's fun though. You guys came up with a really good pose for him, and the sculpt is really awesome. I'm like, think it's really a great figure.
We really were, when we were working on it, the whole time we were working on it originally, he was 5 points of articulation we really were trying to stick with. So he would have his head be able to move, both arms, and then both legs. But like you were saying, to nail a strut, a certain pose is like, we finally figured that was more important than being able to say it has a certain articulation amount or anything like that. So we just really like concentrated on nailing just the pose. So the bottom half of him is stuck in the classic strutting down the street, legs going. He's got the feet with the little pointy tips, and that was what we were aiming for. So as long as we could nail that pose, that was the big important part. But he still has his arms still move, his head can still turn side to side. He's got his flowing little ghost ponytail, I guess you could call it, of sorts. So yeah, his eyes are closed. He's just loving life.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great figure, but I think you made the right choice.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, you're right. He's not loving life anymore, but he did maybe at one point. But I think you do. I think you make a good point where it's like, you've got to make a choice between, you know, design aesthetics and functionality. And in this case, like, it's a figure where if it's not doing the strut, then it doesn't kind of fulfill the, you know, the look of it. And
yeah,
you know,
we've I mean, a big collector of toys, and especially Ghostbuster stuff myself, trying to put something in a certain pose that you remember from the movie or from a scene is kind of the way that I display my stuff personally. And to recreate that strut with him still having moving legs, just
Right.
it was not going to happen.
This is a good point. Like, I want to sort of talk about this for a few minutes because, like, we can just talk about toy making stuff because we can. It's fun to. And, like,
hey, it's your show.
You know, we were going to talk about other things, but Brendan's not here, so let's talk about this for a little bit. I find that, like, I am, as like a toy collector, I've become a lot more. The word I want to use is I'll say selective about what I will and won't jump on at this point, and that. One of the things that I've lost as like a necessity for me in some ways is articulation. Like, not that I want it gone and I want figurines that don't move, but I would prefer a figure that looks good and that I feel like can represent the character well, but I don't like when, I'll give you an example. I don't like the Diamond Select figures in the way in which they have that weird division in their chest.
Yeah,
so that way you can, like,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You get more posability out of them, but they don't look aesthetically right to me. And I've had so much more fun, like with the last round of Hasbro figures we got. My Plasma series Afterlife figures are still in the box. Like, I don't, I took it out like one or two, and then I was like, oh, okay, I like the Plasma series figures I already have on display. And the stuff that came out and got like put out way more excitedly was the Fright Feature stuff. That was like way more simple in its design and had fewer points of articulation, but also just felt a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And I just wonder how you feel about this. Like, I know, you know, as somebody, like, do you look at this point? Are you becoming more of a form over function or function over form? Like, where do you strike that balance? I guess is the question I'm getting at.
I'm right there with you. I think a lot of the articulation can almost take away from everything. Because you get the lines, you get like the little ball joints, you get it just kind of takes away from the overall sculpt and feel sometimes when they try to put too much articulation into figures. And especially if it's something that has like with the Strut and Moogs has those iconic things that stick out in your head, to try and work articulation into that will just distract and kind of take away from it. And we realize that, I mean, our stuff isn't really quote unquote toy. It's not marketed towards a kid. We understand. I mean, adult collectors are buying it and it's for display. So it doesn't necessarily need to have all those toyetic articulation joints and points and stuff, because it's not really going to be played with. Well, I mean, if you're going to, that's awesome. And I do it, but it's going to be on display for 99% of the time. It's owned by somebody. So we really focus on how is this going to look on somebody's shelf? How is this going to look put into somebody's collection? Is it going to blend in with it? Is it going to stick out like a sore thumb? Is it something on it going to be distracting if we do something? So at least I do. And I'm sure Brendan does too. When we're designing stuff, a lot of it is what would I want as a collector? If I was going to buy this, what would I want out of it? What would I do with it? How would I display it? How would I want it packaged? As somebody who's going to go out and buy it and who spent way too much money on goofy Ghostbusters things, what would I do with it while it's in my house and actually on display? So yeah, a lot of the stuff is coming from experience. So we try to definitely think of the customer or the collector. That's definitely forefront of our mind, especially when it comes to design and articulation and all that now. And it's not an easy thing for us hand making everything to pull off articulation. So it takes a lot of time and effort, and each different piece and part adds a lot of time to the process. So we try to keep it as simple and display worthy as possible.
I was thinking about this too, and like, not to be like, let's talk about me for a minute, but like,
let's talk about Jim.
Let's talk about things I own. But I've had this sort of kind of rethinking about the Mattel Matty Collector line recently, and in part because I got the library lady and ended up getting one of those prototypes, and I've got to see how she would have been put together as a figure as a result of that. And one of the things that intrigues me about the figure is that if you look at how she's sculpted, she would have never been able to have arms that like went too far. Like the design of her arm shape would have run into her dress. And so physically there would have been an impediment from the joint moving too significantly or too far. And so you look at the figure and you go, okay, this had to be a pack-in ghost because of the limited range of movement, because all the other Mattel ghosts, with the exception of maybe like the Zool figure, didn't have, she had legs that just came off. That was the Dana Barrett figure was legs. Like sort of an action figure, but kind of more like you can do magic tricks with her by cutting off the bottom half of her and replacing them with another half of her. But it's like goes with magician. But I think the figure, when you look at it, it's got amazing detail to it, right? The number of ruffles and things in the sculpt are crazy. And then you go back and you look at the Scoleri Brothers figures they did, right? And I started thinking about this at the later half of that line, that the ghosts we got in the later half of the line had less functionality and movability in terms of posing, but they were better representations of characters than some of the other ghosts we got earlier in the line. Like the Slimer sculpt is fine. It's okay, right? Like it's kind of like the video game sculpt and it's fine. I'm not ripping on that.
Yeah, if you think about it towards the video game sculpt, yeah, it does look pretty good. Yeah,
but like the other ghosts in the line were like, I don't know, some fish thing with like weird jointed arms, right? And there was like the ghost that comes out of the subway that had like the big jaw on it and had several arms coming off of it. And so as you look at those ghosts, they're smaller. They're not as good representations of like beloved characters, but they have greater posability, right? They have more ways for you to make them look like they're acting and more joints to move. Whereas like the later ghosts that Mattel did in the line, the Scoleri Brothers, right? Like they don't really have much. They can move their arms and they can move their heads, but that's about it. And so you look at the library lady and she's got kind of the same like range of motion, right? And I looked at that and I was like, I love that line so much, but that's part of the reason why I think is because by the end of it, they were going, okay, we have a limited budget. So where are we going to put the money into? Are we going to put the money into articulation, or are we going to put the money into doing pack-in ghosts that represent the characters well and that are going to display well on a shelf, So yeah, I still shout out to the Maddie Collector line. I still love it. It's still my favorite mass-produced Ghostbusters line ever.
I'm right there with you. It's what started all of my collecting. Basically, it was the Maddie Collector line. The fact that it even exists is like a miracle in and of itself, really, because there was no properties really, and like as far as like a movie coming out or anything like that, and it had never been done, and it was like the first real crowdfunded basically type thing. And yeah, I have everything. I'm missing one piece in that line, and it's the Rookie. And
you're missing Rookie? Really?
I'm missing the Rookie.
That's surprising.
Yeah. I even have to get the full Scoleri Brothers was after the line was ended. Didn't Tony Scoleri come with Courtroom Egon, and that was
no. Tony Scoleri came with the Scoleri Brothers came with Ray and Peter. And the Egon figure was the 2015 SDCC exclusive, and what it comes with is an insane number of hand props,
like accessories, all
the accessories they made for the 12-inch figures. They ended up making almost all of them in 6-inch scale, and they packed them all in with the Egon figure. What's weird about that, the funniest part about that, is that Egon figure, despite being an SDCC exclusive, you could still find it like a few years ago, and you could probably still find it now.
Yeah, they made a lot of those, I think.
They made so many of them that you could find them on Amazon by like 2020 for like $15. You just buy one. And so I was like, oh, this is awesome. I can just get these, and I can get the extra accessories if I want to buy multiples or something. But like, yeah, it's like how you get the magnifying glass, the boom box, all in that scale came with Courtroom Egon. So yeah,
you're right. I was wrong. You're 100% right.
It's okay. You can say my favorite phrase again. You were right.
You were right.
No, I admit it. I'm terrible. I like that phrase. But no, it's kind of interesting though that like that's how they did those ghosts was like pack-in, but in contrast, like look at Hasbro, like we didn't get any ghosts for Plasma series. Just none.
No,
it's just no. Sorry, like we're not doing pack-in ghosts. We're doing we're doing accessories, and that's it. Sorry.
Got terror dogs though.
Yeah. Well, you got terror dog.
Yeah, that's terror dog with heads, plural.
Yeah, and heads was kind of an afterthought. Heads was like, we'll pack it in with something else.
Two-pack. He had to buy a two-pack.
We'll pack it in with something else.
It was a good two-pack, though.
Yeah,
I don't know about the name, but...
The name was interesting, but... Yeah. Let's be nice to Hasbro this week. Let's not be. It's Toy Fair's coming. And I want to talk with you about this a bit, because I want to see what Hasbro is going to be doing at Toy Fair this year, because there was a lot released at Toy Fair. I was thinking about this recently, that Toy Fair 2020 happened in February. It was like, probably 4 weeks before the pandemic started.
Yeah, it was close. Yeah.
It was really close, right? Like I've said this, that I went to another event that weekend where people were talking about, have you heard about this flu from China? And being all like creeped out about it because we were in Chinatown in LA. And I was like, you're being weird, ethnocentric and strange. Can you calm down? It's not Jurassic Park and it's not Outbreak. And then people were like, oh my God. So then the world changed. But Toy Fair 2020 had so many things promised to us. And then we kind of saw them all.
For the most part, yeah, we did.
Like the things we didn't end up seeing, which have been talked about in this podcast before, like we didn't see the RC trap at that point. We didn't know that was coming. But the Ectoplasm lab was showed to us. We knew that was coming. We knew the Gushers were coming. And then we never got the lab released in the US, weirdly enough. So I'm kind of like, I'm thinking about Toy Fair like this year is kind of like Hasbro's opportunity to kind of reset the marketing on toys a bit, because they had some stuff that never came out for whatever reason, just never arrived. They had things that were then showed to us later that year or later the next year when they were ready to, because it was like not until I think July or August of 2021 that we saw, hey, here's the RC trap coming out. And then it was canceled after that. So I'm wondering, like, what do you expect to see at Toy Fair this year from Hasbro or Ghostbusters related?
I bet there's got to be at least something planned, especially with the movie originally being supposed to be released in December. I'm sure they had stuff planned before they had to delay the movie for reasons, writer's strike and whatnot. But I'm sure that there's already plans in the works, because the way toys are, that stuff's in production well before and during the movie being made and everything to tie in with the release. So I'm sure they were already prepared to have stuff for it. What they actually end up showing, because the movie's now later, I don't know. I think it kind of depends on if we actually get a trailer released before. I don't know. But there's going to be something. They're going to show something. They have to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out like whether or not we're going to see figures that are related to the movie in September. And part of the reason I say that is like, that would mean having to show us some characters probably if they show us movie figures in September. We don't even have a trailer yet. We don't have a title still. And Toy Fair happens at the end of this month, like 20 days from when you and I are recording. So that would have to be like a pretty significant like marketing push to be like, hey, here's the names of these characters that are in a trailer that you somehow know about, such that you understand why these toy releases are relevant. And that seems like unlikely to me for some reason. It just seems like it's kind of like shooting your wad on like telling me, who Patton Oswalt is in the new movie, because I guess the analogy to me would be like if they were doing a series of figures like right before they were going to release the trailer for Jurassic Park. And they were like, welcome to Toy Fair. Here's our Jurassic Park line. People are like, who's this? Well, this is Dennis Nedry. Well, what's a Dennis Nedry? Well, we can't tell you. Sorry. You'll see when the movie comes out. And maybe that
Newman
happened. I have no idea. But yeah, right. Like, it's just like really weird. But like,
you're right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's really strange.
Yeah, it is. It's an awkward place to be, because I mean, as much as I love all the toys and collecting all the stuff, I don't want the first time that I see something to be in toy form. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
I mean, and
we'll see.
And we had that, a little bit with the last line too.
A little bit, yeah.
But I don't think it was supposed to be that way. I don't think we were supposed to get, like podcasts and I'm like Celeste O'Connor's character just lost my brain. Lucky. That's really simple, Jim. What the hell's wrong with you? Like podcasts and Lucky Figures, were like I could find those at Target way before I could see the movie, which was kind of a weird thing to consider,
Yeah.
But I don't think that was the plan.
No, I think with the Plasma series reveal, I think it was the first time we saw Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, and Ernie Hudson in the flight suits and stuff. I think that was like a big kind of spoilery kind of thing. I would like to hopefully avoid that this time. And there's no pandemic in the way of this movie release, but there is the strikes and stuff going on.
Right.
So there is another hurdle to get over for a Ghostbusters movie to come out, but I don't know. I'm excited to see what they got up their sleeve, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm imagining that like there's got to be at least. I've said this for a while that I'm expecting at least another wave of like the Kenner Classics figures. That I think we're going to see those because
that would
be a way to sort of stretch out, build hype to the next movie while not having to tease anything specifically from it. You get that out before the holiday season. And it's something that we have a sense that there were other figures coming from that line because there were sculpts in like on like a B-roll set of clips that were like, there was a Hasbro PulseCon or something during the pandemic where they showed us those figures and they were like, let's show you how these were made. And they interviewed a guy and it was like, we went back to the original files and this is blah, blah, blah. And they had all these different interviews with people about how they made the figures. And that included a guy sculpting a wax sculpt of a recreation of Backpack Slimer. So they had to be working on other stuff. And when I was at FanFest, and some people may remember this, we got a sense that that line was coming because they had a giant card. They had a ginormous, you could stand in front of it card, but it was for Fright Features Ray. And like, they didn't do the Fright Features figures again when they came out with this most recent stuff. They did a new line of Fright Features figures with the ghosts having action as opposed to the figures themselves. But the original Fright Features figures from Kenner, of course, had, movable arms, their jaws would flop open, whatever it was when you squeeze their legs. And so I'm wondering, like, will we see another set of Kenner Classics figures that would kind of stretch things out a little further until we get to a movie release? We'll see, but I don't know.
Yeah, I know exactly what video you're talking about with them showing the old sculpts and them working on the Kenner Classics line. And there was a lot more than just Backpack Slimer they showed. So there's a lot of stuff that they have. They blew the dust off of the old Kenner molds and they have access to and we're reworking at the time. So hopefully we do get some more of that. I mean, I'm game.
Yeah. I would like to see that. I've actually been on the record as saying as much as the one thing I think we need most is an Ecto one that really rolls. It's in scale with 5.5 and 6 inch figures. Is anyone listening? Is anyone listening to this? I would also think it would be amazing if they did a like I'll call it Ghostbusters Firehouse Origins. Like it's like the Mattel Masters of the Universe Origins line has done this very interesting thing of kind of upholding the aesthetics of the original figures, right? The scale of the original figures, but adding so much more functionality to them. And then they did the same thing with like a Castle Grayskull, right? Where they were like, let's recreate Castle Grayskull like it was when you were a kid, but now we're going to put in like the elevator is actually going to be something that works as opposed to being something that's just like a trap door. Like there's not just stickers on the floor for things. There's actual figures. There's buttons you can push that make sounds and lights and stuff. And so I would actually be a really like big proponent and a huge fan of the idea of them doing a firehouse, but one that was like, not just, we recreated the Ghostbusters firehouse of your youth, but we recreated it and we added in lights. We added in like a bell that went off that you could push a button on. Like, I don't think they could probably license it from the cartoon, but if they could get like, Laura Summer screaming, "We got one!" Like that would be awesome.
Yeah, I do. I love it when they do that stuff. I think Mattel's doing really cool things with that. They're not just re-releasing something. They're putting some effort into it and some work into it and fixing some problems. And I think a lot of it actually probably has to do a little bit with like laws and restrictions of certain things for a product have changed since the original release. So they might have to, safety reasons and stuff, just like with the re-releases of the Kenner Classics, the size of the bug eye was bigger because choking
Right.
hazards and whatnot. But I think if they did do that, I think I would love to see some updates.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was an opportunity to do that with the Ecto 1 that they did. Like, I would have loved if they were like, okay, let's take your original Kenner Ecto 1, but now let's give you the ability to drop in 2 AA's. And when you push a button,
Some sirens.
it does
some
the
lights.
sirens and the lights blink. Like, I got that. I have that from Playmobil, right? Like, and that's the part where I'm like, okay, give me what I like, but then build on it, like kind of innovate on that and give me something worth buying, like the new, right? As opposed to just being like, hey, I'm going to buy a thing that I had when I was a kid. Cause I'm running out of those. I'll be honest. Like I've been doing this for a long time, everybody. And so it's like, there's a point where you go, I don't really need to keep scratching a nostalgia itch. And I think that's part of what I was getting at with like figures that I'm more selective about at this point, right? Where it's just like, I don't need you to give me something because I once had it and now I need that fulfilled. I've done a lot of that in my life. And so give me something new, right? Give me something that is like a new experience to have. And so I don't know, what's something that you would like to see at Toy Fair? It doesn't have to be from Hasbro. It can just be like from anybody who has a Ghostbusters license, like who's making toys. What's something you would love to see at Toy Fair that's new? It's just like they haven't done.
I think they started something cool with their with the Hasbro Fright Features line.
Yeah.
Where it's like almost like a Kenner style simplified. Like you said, they were really fun. And I really did enjoy that line. I think what they did with Slimer and Muncher and the Stay Puft and that was really fun. I'd like to see him continue that. At least I hope it wasn't just a one-off thing just for Afterlife. I hope that line continues too. I mean, the Plasma series is cool. I mean, whatever they come out with, I'm probably gonna buy, but that's just who we are. But
Right,
I would love to see something new. You know what I mean? We've seen the guys, the main four guys, how many times from how many different companies. I'd love to see something new. I'd love to see him get adventurous and show us some more ghosts and some more stuff, just stuff we have never seen before from any company that's able to obtain a license. Yeah.
No, I think that's like I'm into that concept too, because like, look, the one thing I will say I did not buy when they were like, hey, we're showing it to you and aren't you excited about it? When they showed us the Ghost Popper, I just went, why?
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna buy that. I don't need plastic. Maybe you have kids bought them. Maybe I'm just the wrong market for this because I don't have kids. But like I don't need that. I don't need a thing that shoots Nerf bullets. Yes, it existed when I was a kid. Yes, I shot one when I was a child, but like I don't need that. I don't even have a place to put that. That's not it. That takes up so much shelf space. It's just, and I went, I didn't get it because I was just like, even though it's something where I go, oh, I usually get everything they make. And that's what I mean by being selective. I'm like, I need something at this point to be like a new thing. When you say continuing that Fright Features line, I'm like, okay, give me that Firehouse, right? Like,
yeah,
give
there you
me
go.
like the Firehouse playset of maybe the next movie, but do it in the style of the Fright Features figures and continue that line. And that's more interesting to me than like, hey, are you going to get another Plasma Series Peter Venkman in street clothes? Are you going to get a Plasma Series Paul Rudd? Because we already have his head in 3D sculpt from Marvel stuff and we just didn't manage to work out the paperwork last time. Like which again, why did I not get that figure? Why did I not get a Gruberson in Plasma Series? But like, that to me is less interesting, I think, at this point than the originality of a sort of like kiddish sculpt that you have to do, where you can't just take, oh, we got an STL file of Paul Rudd's head, just squish and squeak it out and paint it and then shove it on a Ghostbuster buck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We definitely need to see some new ideas. We've seen the same things so many times and there's so much stuff that hasn't been done. So I hope that Hasbro is going to give us another set of Fright Features. That would be great. From the contemporary Fright Features. I would love to see a reroll of the old Fright Features. If for no other reason that like, here's a reason Kenner, like they could do the Kenner Classics Fright Features. We have such better materials now. Imagine a world of Egons with ties. Like, yeah, that would sell. That would sell. unbreakable Egon ties.
or Winston's jaw doesn't just stay open forever.
That's how mine is displayed.
Yeah, mine is too, because that's the only way it displays now. It's just permanently open. He's forever looks like he's about to eat a giant submarine sandwich. No, I love that line though. I do. And so I don't know. I would love to see more of that. I want to see a continuation of it, but I think I really do want to see new stuff, and I don't know how new you're going to get when you can't necessarily show us anything from the movie yet, or you're going to spoil some stuff, so.
Yeah. I don't want anything spoiled from a toy fair. You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't want the first time I see a certain thing that's going to appear in the movie, I don't want to see its toy form first. As much as it's cool and it's awesome, but don't want it spoiled through the toys.
I'm trying to think. Did they show us the Muncher stuff? They had to have. Because they showed us. They did show us Muncher at Toy Fair. They had to have been the way. Because
I think so. I think
they showed us the Ectoplasm Lab,
one.
And he was the pack-in ghost for Ectoplasm Lab, right? We didn't know what he was yet necessarily, maybe, but here was this blue ghosty thing they were going to put in there. And I don't know if the Fright Features version of him was on display, but Slimer and Stay Puft definitely were, because they were on the shelf there in the footage of that I saw from different folks who went through the booth. So
yeah, they had a really nice display that year. I remember the pictures.
Yeah. I think Yes Have Some went and did that. They covered that too.
Yes, they did.
Had a lot of good photos of that. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm eager to see what it's going to be. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll find out that they're not going at all. I'll sound really uninformed and stupid. Because somebody else told me somebody else told me another big company was not going. And I was like, wow, really? Yeah, they're just not going to it. And I was like, wow, that's pretty wild. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Reckless speculation.
Yeah. I'm going to if not, we just wasted 25 minutes of just hey, what do you think's going to happen at a thing that nobody's going to? Look, any concern I might have about whether or not we're covering something relevant or not. IGN says that Hasbro has a toy lineup for Comic-Con 2023, and they posted that a month ago on YouTube. So
okay, good.
And it has X-Men and other things in it. So will they have Ghostbusters stuff? Who knows? But there was supposed to be that announcement that was going to happen. There was that Entertainment Earth thing that happened a few weeks ago, or was that July, when they were there's going to be an announcement.
Yeah, that was,
and then it didn't happen.
That was way too specific to just be a mistake.
Yeah.
I think there was something there that didn't happen, or they were told that is delayed, and hey, don't say that. And
well, one thing I'm hoping to see at Toy Fair is I'm hopeful that we might get an announcement, if not at Toy Fair, then at least around it, about a new HasLab. And
yeah, that would be sweet.
I don't know if that's when that's happening, but look, I'm just going to say this. I'm confident that's happening. I said this a few weeks ago. I said in passing on the podcast to somebody, I was like, well, when a new HasLab comes out, and whoever it was like, oh, there's a new HasLab coming out? And I went, well, to me there is. And I'll just say this, if folks don't know this, because I'm not on this and I just saw it on Reddit when it was happening, there was a call on Reddit. It was Reddit/r/toys, back probably almost at this point, maybe 2 months ago, that was hey, are you a Ghostbusters fan? We're doing a focus group. And you could try to apply to get in that focus group and see if you could be a part of it. And all of the preview questions for it were what are the things you shop with before? And it was Hasbro Pulse, HasLab, Mattel Creations. It was all of the things that you would go crowdfund a toy with, all those brands. And then it was what's the most you've ever spent on a single Ghostbusters item? Right? So just all these questions that were very clearly targeted towards, are you somebody who spends large dollar amounts on collectibles and buys them on the internet and crowdfunding models? And it was so obvious and transparent what you were looking at. And so from there, I believe that some folks did end up getting contacted about potentially being on a panel that I don't think happened. But from my standpoint, there's a HasLab in the wings, because somebody at a marketing company hired by Hasbro felt bold enough to go carry themselves to /r/toys and be hi, here's 20 questions anyone could fill out and read about what we might be figuring out in marketing. Right. So sorry, Hasbro, if I'm kind of overstating reality based off of interpreting your marketing strategy, but I'm confident in it. You know,
well, it would be silly not to. With the last Ghostbusters HasLab was so hugely successful, and how many proton packs did they sell? Like
20,000 or something.
Yeah,
right?
and without a wand, I mean, they sold. It's crazy if you say it with that context. So for them not to, with all the Ghostbusters gear that they could possibly do, it would be silly of them not to.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, to me, like that. I don't know if we're gonna get that announcement at Toy Fair or a preview of it, because typically, like, I don't know that they take HasLabs to Toy Fair. I don't know if that's a thing or if they just kind of do them on their own terms, because they go, it's Hasbro Pulse Thursday, and go on the internet at 1:00 and watch two people show you a thing and be totally wowed by it, and then chat in our chat room. That's their speed of doing things, I think, at this point. But you know, they do show up at cons. They are, you know, theoretically slated to show up at Toy Fair. So they have a lot to market there, of course. It isn't Ghostbusters stuff. They're doing X-Men stuff and Marvel stuff and all the other stuff they do. But they have My Little Pony jump drives probably to give away as tchotchkes to people. And I won't get one, but whatever. But like, the point is that, like, I'm excited about a bunch of new stuff coming out. And I have to, in my heart of hearts, I have to believe there's a HasLab out there. Like, it won't be another proton pack, I don't think. But some, like you just said it, there's so many other props and tools in the Ghostbusters universe that they can make. And in the way that they've built lightsabers out for years as like a category of things they make, and then other like, you know, Darth Vader helmets and, you know, whatever else it is that you can buy as little props, I think that that's really become a market for them. It's huge. So I hope we're getting another HasLab and that it's going to be something we haven't necessarily seen before, you know, but we'll see.
I think it's a safe bet. I think it's a safe bet. With as successful as the last one was, they'd have to try again at least. And it's really no risk to them. I mean, if it doesn't fund, it doesn't fund. I mean, right. But it would if they did another HasLab.
Look, I think that, like, there's some embarrassment when a thing doesn't fund. You know, like when they like Star Wars team over there at Hasbro has eaten some crow, I think, on some of their Hasbro Pulse, their plasma series. What am I trying to say? Their HasLab offerings, right? And they've had a few things go wrong. I think there was, like, I'm trying to think what else didn't get funded over there. There was a Cookie Monster that was really awesome that didn't get funded. That was early. Well, I think that might have been the first HasLab
it was one of the very first ones. Yeah.
But, like,
as far as Star Wars goes, I know they tried to do a Rancor, a large scale. Well, I think it was a Black Series scale Rancor that didn't fund. There was a lightsaber, a Reva lightsaber from the Obi-Wan series on Disney Plus that didn't fund. I think they just recently had just a Marvel one with the Ghost Rider car didn't fund, but the Ghostbusters one was a gigantic success because it only needed, like, originally, what was it, like 9,000 backers or something for it to pass, and it went to 22,000. So for them to not,
I mean, look, part of that is because it's like they were making a proton pack at sub $500, right? Like that.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever really done it that has done it that accurately or promised the things they were promising. But I think part of the reason too is it's like, Ghostbusters fans, there's fewer of us and, like, hardcore Ghostbusters fans than there are Star Wars fans, I think. But there's so little produced for us that when they produce something like this, we're like, we have to get it. Like, there's an easier ability to look aside at, like, oh, they made Reva's lightsaber. Who cares? I have 5 lightsabers and they're from my 5 favorite Jedi, right? Like, there's, if they were making like 5 different neutrino wands, I think we would also kind of raise our eyebrows and go, and I've joked about that. I'm like, if they really wanted to, they could just be like, take the shotgun muzzle off the existing neutrino wand, take a few greeblies off of the existing neutrino wand, change that handle and be like, it's the 84 wand. And yeah, we would probably run out and buy one.
I did it myself.
Right. Like, there's people who've already done it. But I think that, like, that's what's different about Ghostbusters and Star Wars to me is, like, that if they know they could have done that, but they chose not to. They just went, let's put out the one and that's it. And, like, the next item we get probably won't be that, because it seems like they're not looking to replicate, you know, the same category of prop. Like, they could have done that very quickly within 6 months of putting out that first Spengler wand, they could have been like, now you can buy the 84 wand, and then just kind of expanded it from there. They could have been like, now you can get the video game wand, and just gave us wand after wand after wand in the same way they do those lightsabers. Hasbro, don't do this. This is not what I'm telling you to do. I know right now you're going, hey, we could do that. We could make money. But like, I see the value in what they're doing. If they come out with a new HasLab that is going to be something we've not had before, or even like if they do a trap, nobody's done a trap that opens and does anything other than like what, rubies? Like since Mattel. Like
since Mattel,
It's like Mattel did the trap when everybody was like, wow, that's amazing. And it's still something so coveted that people pay like $700-800 for the stupid thing, if not more than that on eBay. And in contrast to that, like the only company that has made a trap with opening doors since then was the like offshoot of a costume company that is now out of business. And even that was just the modification of their existing item, right? Like, so if they do something like that, I think that you'll get, 25,000 more of those sold. Easy. Because everybody who bought a Proton pack is going to buy a trap.
Oh yeah. And then some. Yeah.
So
if they could RTV it, they could, if they could come up with a trap that was an RTV and you could also convert it to a standard rolling 84, 89 trap, that would be amazing.
I'm kind of interested to see for the next movie, will we see a re-roll and a re-release of the roleplay props? Because like they're important.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, they are.
They're like as much as they've been at Ollie's on discount, and everybody's like, "Well, why would you need to buy those now?"
Yeah, that might be a sign of what they have planned. I'm sure they're aware of all the stuff that's in Ollie's too. So,
but like, what's interesting to think about though is that you need those role play props to exist to market to kids. They're not for us, right? So, if that stuff is at Ollie's now, does that mean that it's done, or does it mean it's going to come out in new packaging for the new movie? And I haven't talked about this yet on the podcast, so you and I are going to talk about it now. But RC traps, that RC trap, everybody, the Hasbro RC trap, the one that we didn't get in the US,
the Muncher
suddenly
trap
appearing on eBay in China, and not in like, oh, there's a seller who has one, but more like a seller who has 20, and another seller who has 10. But who has written in the margins, like, or in the description, things like, if you want perfect colorized box, do not buy. These will arrive with wrinkling from long shipment and travel. And I can't decide what that's about. I can't decide if that is those traps never left China and they've been sitting around in a shipping container that never got put on a boat and somebody bought it. If they were in like a liquidation warehouse, or if maybe, just maybe, somebody is repackaging some old blue props because they're going to get put back out, like stuff that was pulled back. And I've said this from the beginning that like it wouldn't be that difficult to take the Muncher item out, rip him out, take the Muncher that is kind of phallic and that everybody objects to, throw him away, put a different version of that ghost or a different ghost in there entirely that pops onto the same like peg hole, and put it back in a new box, and you recoup those and repackage them and get them back out into the world, right? So I have no idea. Nobody right now should be like, Jim reported it's happening. But it's very strange that all of a sudden there's like a clutch of, or several clutches of RC traps that are showing up in China. And it appears from like toy liquidators. It's very weird. So
if you were to do that, take all of the quote unquote phallic bunchers off of the trap, what do you do with all of them?
Just you mean that piece? What do you do with them all?
Yeah, you could repackage the piece you just removed and sell it somewhere else.
Liquidate those with what is that? I'm like, what's the website that people go to for that? I can't remember. I've blown the joke. But yeah, you
Adam and Eve.
Yeah, you could bring those to Adam and Eve. Hey, we've got something for you. It's really deep discount merchandise.
Call it Peter and Dana's.
I imagine what you really do with them is melt them. But what fascinates me about that is that it means that those like I have said that they were either destroyed or they were warehoused. They never got on a boat. They never, like the ones that came here probably in assortment pallets, and they were in the middle of the pallet, and so they didn't get pulled out. But the other ones that were going to big box stores, except for the ones that made it to Amazon, probably never even made it out of China was my sort of thinking about it, or they made it to the US and got turned around, because we do know that happened too in the shipping manifests. And there's, for those of you who are like, are you really getting this deep into the RC trap? Yes, I got so deep in this that I did a whole episode on it way back in like episode 10 or something of Extraplasm. Go find it. But we know they came to the US. We know that there were shipping manifests and they arrived in ports and they never came here. So that's why I'm like, are these shipping containers that got turned around on a boat, got taken back to China, got offloaded, put into some facility somewhere? Now someone's like, hey, we're liquidating salvage of shipping containers, and that's where this turns up? Or is it something that's part of a larger, a larger effort to recoup them? I don't know. So, but that made me start thinking about those other, blue role play props over at Ollie's. Like, do they just go away now? Because I think about a world when you were a kid, if they just made the Kenner Real Ghostbusters Proton Pack for like one window of time. It was like, they only made the Proton Pack with the foam noodle on it, and they only made it for like one movie, like only in 1989, and then never again, would have been crazy. Right? Like that thing was around for several years of your life on toy shelves, right? Like that's not a thing that was just produced one and done. And so that's why I really wonder, like, are we going to see those same, the mod wand or the more budget Proton Pack wand that came out, like all those little things, or the blue Proton Pack with the straps on it that, it didn't do anything. It was just inert, but it was a little plastic Proton Pack for kids. Are they going to be back out with new branding, or are they just done?
I think they'll be back out. They'd have to.
It's
universal. So. Yeah. Because every time you see a Star Wars movie, I swear it seems like some of the same kiddie-ish, more toy, actual like role play stuff looks pretty much the same. Might be slightly different colors, this and that, but then the packaging's different, but it's pretty much the same toy a few times. So
yeah,
it'd be a smart move from them. They got to bring the role play toys back. What keeps franchises alive is getting kids involved too. So
right.
I hope they do bring them back.
Yeah, I think that's part of why that ended up at Ollie's was like, you need to liquidate your existing stock, because the old toys have Afterlife branding. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like they have an Afterlife
we got a new logo
on.
Now, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, I mean, that also may be a conversation at Hasbro and at Ghost Corps to be like, hey, do we really want to put the movie branding on the role play toys? We just want to put Ghostbusters, because then we don't have to worry about all of this repackaging or kind of making sure that existing stock gets cleared out before we put out new stock, because, that's not timely anymore. It's kind of a weird thing to consider, that attachment to a movie logo kind of, screws that up. And the other place I think about like that is Spirit Halloween. For so many years, a number of their props had 35th branding on it.
Oh yeah, with the slimed 3-5 on it. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so like the walkie-talkie was branded as Ghostbusters Classic 35th. And so when you found it in stores the next year, it was still branded that way. And they finally now, if you go to a Spirit, they now have a uniform package design of the tan, like ripstop cotton fabric look that is also used on like Plasma series and everything else. But it's weird if you think about it, like going back just to 2019, you had this sort of almost scattered sense of branding identity across their products, where even like, the Ecto goggles are out. They're Ghostbusters 35th. And you're like, well, why? They could be worn during any year. Who gives a shit? Like what? With the anniversary, like I get that's a reason to put them out, but that's just more work to produce now for later to be able to market this stuff. So,
do you own that walkie-talkie though?
I do.
It is awesome.
It's fun.
It's fun. You actually, it's like, it's kind of cool because it's like your Egon and you get to hear the conversation between Ray and Venkman.
Yeah.
In the Slimer scene, like you're Egon and you're hearing their on your walkie-talkie, you're hearing them talk to each other. It's really cool, actually. They did a really good job with that.
It's good. I mean, it's good, and it's like a 3/4 size like Motorola. Basically, like what they did with it was 80% sized or whatever. That was the whole era of like Spirit Halloween. What can we do? Well, we'll make it 80% sized, an 80% sized walkie-talkie, an 80% sized proton pack, 80% sized goggles. It's just like that's their whole shtick was 80% sized. And now they sell life-sized. So it's like funny. But
that Motorola could use an 80% scale though. That the legit ones are huge and heavy and pull your belt off. And
the only thing I didn't like about it was that it said Ghostbusters on it.
Yeah.
It's like so cheesy, but you could easily fix it. You could just put a Motorola on it.
Yeah, I painted mine off. I still need to make a little Motorola sticker and stick on there, but I just took some black paint and it looks 1,000 times better without the branding on it.
But that's a thing that now it's in the stores now, right? You can find it. But for a while, all right, brass tacks for real. I sold one of those on eBay, like probably in like 2020. And I think I sold it for like $80, some insane amount of money because they weren't around. And part of the reason why is they were produced as a one-off anniversary item for that year. The pandemic hit. And so even though like Spirit later on had goggles and everything else, still it was in classic packaging, that was produced as a one-off anniversary year item, as opposed to, hey, wouldn't you want to have a walkie-talkie as a Ghostbuster? Now, of course, in contrast to that, there's no shortage of ghost badges down at the Spirit Halloween, which no one needs, everyone.
Now that product is not awesome.
No, we've talked about it on the show several times, and I'm sure that every time I say it, there's some people who listen who are like, this is the reason I'm going to go leave the negative iTunes review. This is why, Jim. This is my ghost badge. But like, and I'm sorry if that's true. Like, I don't really want you to leave a bad review, and you can wear whatever you want. But like, I just think it's funny that that's a thing that Spirit readily will have when you'll go there every year. Like, do you have proton packs in stock? No. What do you have? Ghost badges. Okay, great. That's really helpful. Right. But it's all unified now. That's the part to me that's interesting, is that when you walk in there now, everything that's there is a unified design. Like even the proton pack boxes, like within the last couple of years, like they had a mishmash of the tan ripstop versus, is it the one with black, a man on it, or is it the one with the kid on it? Like, and it was like how you were keeping track of which model proton pack you were buying was, does it have a man or does it have a child? So I don't know. Like, that's why I wonder, like, will they do the same thing at Hasbro of saying, let's put out the role play props again? But we know there's all this media property coming. We know there's not just this movie. We know there's cartoons. We know there's all this other stuff that's coming. There's VR games. We need to be broader than just, oh, we are making stuff for the next movie. We are instead making the stuff to be a Ghostbuster if you're a kid. Right. And so if they don't do that, then they're kind of leaving that ground, from my standpoint, to Spirit Halloween. Like, that's who they are giving that ground up to, because the reality is that, like, you can buy those props like from them year round. They're not just a Halloween store that exists like they are. They only exist in your Tuesday morning or Bed Bath & Beyond location during, September and October. But like year round, you can go online and buy the same stuff that you would go buy from Amazon. Right. So I don't know. It's been something I've just been kicking around and thinking about in my head. So
the Spirit Halloweens by me are in the old Toys R Us's and old Best Buys.
Are they? Are they still?
Yep.
The ones here are now currently in Tuesday morning stores, which all just went out of business and filed like their second bankruptcy like 6 months ago. And they're in some Bed Bath & Beyonds, but there seems to be like, I don't know what the story is. My Spirit Halloween, I went to one, and there was a sign on the inside of it that said, the only Spirit Halloween that is open in this entire county is actually in Simi Valley. Sorry. And it was like, okay. So they clearly were getting bothered a lot about people being like, are you open yet? And they were not. And it made me get the sense that like maybe there was some staffing or some leasing issues going on, given that all of the other Spirit Halloween locations that were listed were apparently not open. I did find one eventually, but it took a while. It took another 2 weeks before I could go to one. So, well, regardless of what happens with Toy Fair and regardless of what happens with HasLabs, you have your strutting Moogs coming out, which we talked about. What else you got? What else you have coming out right now? What else is going on in Phantasm Toys Land?
Well, while we were playing around with strut and Moogs, we were trying to pick like different poses and struts and positions for him to be in, whichever ones we liked. And I mean, we did settle on, I think, is by far the best one and my favorite, but we also had some good ones. So we went ahead and made him a little mini Moogs in our Crypt Creepers form and made him glow in the dark. So it was another strut pose we were thinking of. This one's more along the lines of him wiggling around the trash cans more than getting that full strut going. So we have him also available in a mini form, and we've released our second wave of Phanplasms, which is our recreations of the ectoplasm ghosts. Because they're hard to find, and I want them for my collection, and they can be expensive, but more importantly, they're just really hard to find, and we really wanted to make them just to see if we could really, and we don't even own any physical ones, so we're completely resculpting them from the ground up.
Gotcha.
And just off of pictures and photos and reference, I have two. I only have two of the ectoplasm ghosts myself in my collection. So right now we got they had a 3-pack. Well, it wasn't a 3-pack, but there's 3 in a set to complete, and it made a face, and they called it their come to your senses ghost. So we completely recreated the lip ghost and the nose ghost and the eyeball ghost, and we got those in a 3-pack in a really vibrant yellow color, and they fit right in with the old school Kenner stuff, and it's a fun 3-pack that we got available now too.
I looked at those and I thought, I really wish there was some sort of Mr. Potato Head product that these went onto.
Yeah.
It's also my way of like telling you that you now need to make a haunted Mr. Potato Head item. Like you need to create that as a ghost, just, I don't know, poltergeist potato. I'm not just throwing things out there,
And the original Come to Your Senses ghosts were kind of two-sided. Like with the eyeball one, it looked like a certain kind of ghost and had all kinds of features on the one side, and if you turned it around, kind of had a different look to it. We really took that to another level. So now these ones are, especially the lips and the eyeball ghost, if you look at them from the front and the back, they work both ways and are completely different style faces, but really still capture that old school Kenner feel. And I love them. I think they're really fun.
Yeah, they're very cool. I like your mini Moogs, and I was thinking about that today, that this is, maybe we'll end up doing this. Maybe you already thought about this, but what if you did a 3-pack of those in different poses? Like the same way the mini Puffs came out from the Plasma series.
That is a really good idea.
I was thinking about this because I went into my closet today to look for something, and I thought I had like 4 packages of those because I was like, I'm going to army build these. And then I realized how many people I know who were like, couldn't find them. And I went, oh, I have an extra, don't worry. And so I opened my closet and I was like, I only have 1 extra of these. How did that happen? That's not supposed to be a thing. And I went online to go look, and I was like, oh my God, nobody has these anymore. Like, this is the thing from the entire Plasma series line that has become the hardest to find. Like, do you want a podcast Plasma series figure? $6 on clearance somewhere. But like, if you want those little, Stay Puft figures, the little mini Puff figures they had, they're way harder to find now. It's kind of crazy. So you could do mini Moogs, and that would be awesome. I would buy those.
Yeah, we want to keep our Crypt Creeper line going too. So, and he's like, of all of the companion, quote unquote, companion ghosts and pack-in ghosts, he's perfect. He's the companion ghost.
Yeah.
So we had to make him in a mini ghost form too, and we're huge fans of anything that glows in the dark, and any opportunity we have to make something glow in the dark where it actually makes sense and still looks good, we're gonna do it. So yeah, obviously, mini Moogs glows in the dark.
That's awesome. I'm excited about that. I kind of want to army build them now. I just want, like, what's funny is that you always army build because you just do production. And so like you have to build an army in the process of producing. And you often send me these photos that are like, hey, here's my basement right now. And here's like, several hundred of something. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's army building. So
literally, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I like that. So, but beyond that, you said you're going to continue working on the Crypt Creepers line. And I imagine you've got some other Class 10 ideas still in the pipeline that we've yet to see.
Yeah, a lot. We've teased a lot of things, and we're working on them. It's just we're a really small, tiny little speck of a company, really, if anything, and just two dudes hand making everything, and there's not a single order that doesn't get shipped out that isn't, everyone goes through my hands from point A to your collection. So it takes some time. So we don't want to lose our quality and start rushing, and that's our most important thing we want to maintain is the quality of the stuff that we put out. So we try to not bite off more than we can chew. But a lot of the stuff that we've teased in the past, it's still in the works, and we do still plan on having it come out.
You've shown me photos like over the last year, especially like producing Slime Ball with like all these different variations of them because you're getting the sculpts right and stuff. And I was thinking about you all recently because like what is that, PCS, like the Premium Collectible Studio, whoever's doing that, the $700 figurines of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, Vegan and Ray they showed, and
yeah, they put out like their Ray figure, and the community was like, "What?" And even I was like on the podcast jokingly saying like, "He looks like Roy Stans and not Ray Stantz. I don't know who this guy is. He looks like Roy and not Ray." But that's a company that turned around and had like the same like, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna get feedback, and we're gonna change what we're doing. Right? We're gonna kind of change course and redesign what we're doing to better meet consumer need. And it's an admirable quality, you know what I'm saying? And so it's just something that I think that you may continue to uphold that kind of a decision-making process of like, what can we do that is going to make people happy, make sure we're getting it right. It may take longer. We may release things in the pace we want to, but it means that you don't send anybody home unhappy. So.
Yeah, try not to, because I've been there personally. So dealing with, other smaller companies and things taking way too long, or you get it and you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
But so I take a lot of pride in what I do and try to put myself in the customer's shoes because I've been there, and try to maintain. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but we're just trying to keep doing what we're doing. And we're still having a lot of fun doing it.
I think one of the things I want to tell you that this is kind of fun is that as a result of you coming on the show and getting to know people from the show, I now get vicarious joy messages sometimes. Like people buy something from you and then they message me to tell me they did.
That's awesome.
And they're like, look, my Destructor's here. And they send it to me and I'm like, that's awesome. I'm so stoked for you. And I've had several people message me and be like, hey, I got a Destructor. And I'm like, right on, that's dope. And they're like, this thing's great, isn't it? And I'm like, yes, it really is. It's really one of like the best things, isn't it? And so you should know that even if people don't message you, I know that, as a company, sometimes you get messaged for reasons like I'm dissatisfied about whatever. And I don't think you get too much of that, but like every company does. If you're not getting enough, hey, this is awesome.
Yeah, you can't make everybody happy all the time.
But. Yeah. But if you're not getting enough accolades yourself, like know that I'm receiving them on your behalf sometimes. Just kind of fun. They're like, the guy who was on your podcast, I bought his thing. It's really cool. I'm like, I know. That's why I said you should get one, because I got one. But yeah.
It's
awesome.
It's so rewarding to see that when we do get the messages from people and say, hey, I got it. And look, he fits right in. And look, I got him right next to this or this. And it's an honor to be in people's collections and right next to their stuff and showing off our things next to other collectibles and things that they cherish, and our stuff is sitting right on the shelf next to it. And it, from the first time I've ever received a picture that somebody sent me where they got something that I made to the very last one I just received is still awesome. I still can't get over it. It's surreal.
It's so funny, and it's just like so great. I mean, I've talked about this a million times, of watching you all grow as a company, and the time that you have is amazing. It's just like, wow, how did you do this? Is like, it's impressive. But I do think that has to be such a good part of this, is that the number of people who faces you put smiles on, because, you know, I'm love getting those messages from people who are just excited when they get the thing from, you know, they've seen it, they've been waiting for it, they get it. And there's this sort of desire to share that joy. And I mean this, if you're one of those people out there who message me, I'm not even like say this facetious, be like, I love getting those messages. They're like, look what I got. I've been waiting for it. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, that makes my day to know that you are excited about it. Cause it's cool. So I don't know. I appreciate you coming on the show. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we split?
If you're anywhere near Cincinnati for Cincinnati Comic Expo, find Phantasm Toys. We're going to be there. I don't know where we're going to be in, but we're going to be there. We got a table. We're going to have a lot of stuff set up, a lot of stuff for sale, a lot of surprises, a lot of cool things. I would love to be able to meet some people, and that's exactly why we decided to do a convention while Brendan's here, so we can shake some hands and have some fun and get out there and not just be an internet identity and become like a real company.
Yeah.
So if you're around Cincinnati, September, I think it's, like I said, September 22nd, I think it starts. We'll be there.
I'm excited for you all to be going out to that. I also want to say, of course, that people can get your stuff at phantasmtoys.com, and that your pre-order for everything we've talked about, your strut.
Yeah. Strut and Moogs. We got glowing mini Moogs, Phantasms. We got them up for pre-order now for probably, I don't know, a couple more weeks. We'll make sure that we follow us on Instagram is where we do most of our work. And we'll make sure that we let everybody know what we got coming up and what's available and all that good stuff. So,
I hope you take lots of photos at Cincinnati Comic Expo. I want to keep calling it Comic Palooza or Comic. I just want to make it something else.
I've called it 20 different things, and it might not even be Comic Expo, to be honest.
And I'm not sure how we're going to put this one in the books, because technically this was supposed to be an appearance for the two of you, and we said we were starting a new punch card for the two of you, but then you came alone, which I think means that you might have actually exceeded your 5. God,
who's
make
counting?
Me get robes, man.
Who's counting?
No, I appreciate that you come on Extraplasm as often as you do, because you're one of my favorite people to talk to about stuff with Ghostbusters stuff and just in life. You're just a person who's grown to be an amazing friend. And when I say for the phrase "friend of a podcast," you know, it's a thing people joke about and bandy around. I joked at one point I was going to get T-shirts for anyone that just said "I'm the friend of a podcast" and it had Extraplasm on the back of it. But I do mean this. I really appreciate your friendship and your friendship with the show. And, you know, I really want to say to folks, go out and support Phantasm Toys if you don't already, because you won't ever be disappointed. You'll always walk away with something that makes you happy. So, yeah.
Well, that really means a lot, Jim. And right back at you. I'm happy that we've been able to become really good friends, and above everything else, I am truly a fan of the podcast. So just being able to be invited just on Extraplasm is just, I love it. I'll do it. Yes.
All right. Well, then good, because you'll do it again probably.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Nope, you're fired. That's it. That was my way of setting you back. I love talking
with you, man. Whether we're recording something or for the show, or just you call me because you're on your way to the pool and there's something you just you can't text, and you gotta I love getting the phone calls and all the messages and stuff. It's super fun. It's
good. And so much of Extraplasm has been about making new friendships and relationships that are meaningful and powerful and help people be creative. So I always think of you as a good example of that. Of like, you're a person who was in the middle of like sitting around a pandemic and was like, what if you just be creative with other people? Just like, here's the thing to do. So keep at it. We're happy to have talked to you, and we'll hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you, Jim. Keep it up.
All right, thank you. I will try. You too. Take care.
See ya.
That's going to wrap things up for Extraplasm this week. I want to say thank you again to Tony Taylor for coming on the show, and as well to Brendan Pearce, not just because he makes our logo every week and provides a visual identity for the show, but also because he came all the way to the United States and he planned to talk to me. And even though he couldn't, he actually showed up on webcam sick to be like, I'm sorry. So, Brendan, if you're listening out there, when you are better and feeling up to it, please let's do an episode together. And for those of you listening out there, send Brendan some warm wishes and some get well so he can feel better and go experience the United States after flying all the way here rather than just being sick in Tony's house. Beyond that, I want to say thank you to you as always for listening to the show. The show would be nothing if not for the folks who interact with it. And I did say this week that I really enjoy listening and hearing from you all when things are going awesome or when you're excited about something from the show. So if you want to reach out to the show, of course, you can hit me at Extraplasm on Instagram. For at least a little while longer, you can probably reach the podcast on X or Twitter at Extraplasm. And you can always reach the podcast at extraplasompodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us now on Facebook if you haven't already. And if there's a way you want to support the show, you can leave a positive review for the show on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get the show, because it really does help for shows to get connected with their fan bases because of recommendations. It sounds kind of silly because I don't think all of us are necessarily out there looking at reviews of what people are saying, but the algorithm is. So if you want to help boost the signal for the podcast, that's a great way to do it. Thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your week. And as Ernie Hudson reminds us each and every week,
try to have fun and always keep on busting. Take care.